Hey everyone, and welcome. You know, there's a financial system out there that people are calling a blueprint for the future, and today we're going to dive deep into it. We're talking about India's banking architecture. It's this really unique design that countries all over the world are trying to learn from. So let's get into it and figure out what makes it such a game changer.
And really, we have to start right here. Just think about the sheer scale of this thing. We're not just talking about building a few banks. No, this is about connecting hundreds of millions of people to the formal economy. I mean, from the biggest, most crowded cities to the tiniest, most remote villages. It's a national project on an almost unbelievable scale, and that's honestly what makes this story so fascinating.
Okay, so to really get our heads around how this all works, let's imagine we're looking at the blueprint for a huge building, right? And any good building, any strong building, has to have an absolutely rock-solid foundation. Well, in the world of banking, that foundation, that's the regulatory architect. It's the one who lays down all the rules to make sure the whole thing doesn't come crashing down.
And who is this master architect? Well, it's the Reserve Bank of India, or the RBI as you'll often hear it called. Now yeah, it's the country's central bank, so it handles all the usual stuff like currency and monetary policy. But its role here is, well, it's so much bigger. The RBI's main job, its number one priority, is making sure this entire financial structure is safe, stable, and can handle whatever the economy throws at it. You could say they're the ultimate guardians of the whole system.
So how do they actually do it, right? Well, the RBI has this really powerful toolkit. They make sure Indian banks follow international standards like Basel III. And what that really boils down to is just making sure banks have enough of their own cash on hand to cover any big losses. Then there's something called risk-based supervision, which is just a fancy way of saying they're constantly keeping an eye on every bank's health. And if a bank does start to wobble, they have this prompt corrective action plan to jump in and fix things fast. These aren't just, corporate buzzwords. They're real active defense systems for the entire economy.
All right, so we've got our foundation set. It's strong, it's stable. Now let's look at what's built on top of it, the two main pillars holding the whole thing up. And what's so cool about this is that they're designed to be completely different from each other, but they work together perfectly to support the whole structure.
And you can see this deliberate design so clearly here. On one hand, you've got the public sector banks. Their whole focus is on reach and stability, getting banking out into rural India. But on the other hand, you have the private sector banks. They're all about innovation, new technology, and sophisticated services, mostly for people in the cities. It's this really clever balancing act, One pillar for making sure everyone has access, and the other for driving competition and new ideas.
But having these great pillars doesn't mean much if a huge chunk of the population can't even get to them, right? And that's exactly why the architects of this system built something else, a bridge. A very intentional strategy designed to connect the most remote people, the folks who were left out before, to the entire financial system.
And this really gets to the heart of the challenge. I mean, think about it. How do you bank an entire nation? It's one thing to have shiny bank branches in big cities, but what about someone living in a tiny village, maybe hundreds of miles from anything? How do you get banking services to them? The scale of that problem is just enormous.
And here's how they tackled it. It was this amazing multi-step plan. First, they launched a massive campaign, the Jan Dhan Yojana, that brought literally hundreds of millions of people into the system by getting them a bank account. Second, they created this incredible human network of business correspondents. Think of them as walking, talking ATMs, people on the ground providing services in the most remote spots. And third, they rolled out simple tech like micro ATMs and mobile banking to cover that last critical mile. It's this incredible bottom-up strategy that really built that bridge.
Okay, so we've got the foundation, the pillars, and the bridge. Now let's talk about the most modern, most dynamic part of this whole building, the digital superstructure. If the banks are the pillars, then this is like the high-tech fiber optic wiring and the smart roof that connects everything together. And let me tell you, this is what has absolutely revolutionized day-to-day life in India.
And the beating heart of this digital layer is something called UPI. If you've ever seen a video or a picture of someone in India just scanning a simple QR code with their phone to buy, a cup of tea or some vegetables, you've seen UPI. It's this incredible public system that lets all these different payment apps talk to each other and send money instantly. It has totally changed how people buy and sell things.
Now, humming away behind the scenes, you've got IMPS. Think of this as the engine room. It's the system that makes sure when you hit send on that UPI app, the money actually physically moves from one bank account to another. And it does this 24/7, 365 days a year. You don't have to wait for the bank to open on Monday morning. It just works instantly.
And then there's this, which is just another total game changer. It's called the Aadhaar-enabled payment system. What it does is link your bank account to your unique biometric ID, so your fingerprint or your iris scan. Now, just think about what that means. Someone who maybe can't read or write can walk up to a banking agent, put their thumb on a scanner, and securely take out money from their account. It's an unbelievably powerful tool for making sure everyone is included.
So what's the result of all this digital wizardry? Well, it's pretty simple. The fact is, India now leads the entire world in digital payments. The sheer number of transactions, the level of innovation, it's put the country right at the forefront of global finance. This superstructure isn't just working, it's literally world-class.
All right, so let's take a step back and look at the whole blueprint one last time. We've talked about the cornerstone, the pillars, that crucial bridge, and the high-tech superstructure. But the real magic, the genius of it all, is how these pieces don't just exist on their own. They lock together to create one single, powerful system.
And this is the perfect summary. You can see the logic of the whole system laid out. You get stability from the regulations, you get access from that dual-pillar bank structure, you get inclusion from those very specific outreach programs, and you get amazing innovation from the digital infrastructure. See? It's a complete, interlocking design, where every single part makes the entire structure stronger.
And that really leaves us with one big, final question to think about. As countries all over the world are trying to figure out their own financial futures, what can they really learn from this unique Indian blueprint? Because what we're looking at is a model that somehow manages to perfectly balance stability, getting everyone included, and pushing the boundaries of digital innovation. And for that reason, it's a model the whole world has its eyes on right now.